was great getting outside this morning and starting in earnest our week of preparation for Minnesota and battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. So it's good to get the week going and obviously need to make it a great week and be prepared and ready to go for Saturday's game.
Jeff?
Yeah, Paul, two-part question for you. Do you have any idea at this point, I know it's early in the week, about the status of KP and Danny at wide receiver? And Saturday, like guys like Mustafa and AJ Abbott, one got in, one didn't travel. Can you tell us where their development is? Because we didn't get to see him in camp at all this year.
Right. I think that we'll find out, like you said, we'll find out during the week. I feel I think KP would be the first to be back, and then we'll see kind of where he's at with it. And like any of this too, the more they do, how do they respond to it? But certainly hopeful of one, if not both. And then Taj and AJ, they've had. I think there's been moments where they've had really, really good development, and then AJ's missed some time recently, and so it'd be good to get him back going. And Taj had missed some time, but he's a little bit ahead of AJ, so it's got some work last week and need to continue. As that really every position, you go around it, and certainly we're talking about receivers right now, but of all the years, this is where your second group, your third group, your scout teamers, it's there's as much of an emphasis on their work and their improvement as it is your starters.
Colton?
Oh, when you go back and look at those defensive pass interferences that you guys had on Saturday, do you think it was an issue of your guys just playing a little bit too physical, or do you want them to play like that and you're just going to have to take a chance with the officials throwing the flags?
We want them to obviously play confident, and what we're coaching is within the rules, and want them playing that way. And it's that's how we want them to play.
Steve McGargy?
Thanks for doing this. I'm just wondering, there have been a number of teams, not just yourselves now, that have been impacted by the pandemic in terms of losing games, losing players, et cetera. I'm just wondering what y'all kind of learn about yourselves from those 2 weeks you had to take off. And also, do you feel this whole kind of experiment of this season has been kind of worth the trouble in terms of all that you've had to deal with the testing and missed games, rescheduling games and the like?
I think we knew going in that it was going to be a unconventional year, and I think the one thing that drove a lot of this, not from our end of it in decision making, but the reason for it is our players, that they truly want to be able to play football and understand that we all want to do it in a safe, fashion and whatnot. But, any inconveniences, those are just, different things that you got to work through. But it's, if you talk to our players, and we've got a number of guys that this will be their last season of playing college football, and it's absolutely worth whatever inconvenience it may be.
Josh Schaefer?
Paul, Jim Leonard's talked a little bit about the defensive linemen kind of playing a little bit more free this year and having a little bit more responsibility to make plays in the defense. I'm curious just how you think that's impacted the defense and what you've seen from that group kind of getting that expanded role.
Yeah, going into the season, that was one of our points of emphasis and goals, and I think it's twofold. One, we think we got some D linemen that are capable of doing that, and Isaiah Loudermilk and Garrett Rand Henny before he got injured, and certainly Keanu. And so, I've appreciated, I think that's good coaching, the way that our staff, led by Jimmy, has adjusted to it and played to the strength of our guys. And I absolutely think their presence is being felt.
Zach Heilprin.
Paul, just wondering where Jack is in his recovery. I think I asked that about 10 days ago. Just wondering where he is coming along.
Yeah, it's been good. Last week he was able to do a little bit more, and certainly this week we're hopeful that'll be able to increase. So progressing, and that, and when he's out there with the guys, it's a good feeling. He means a ton to this team, and so hopefully this week we get to do more than he did last week.
Megan Ryan.
Hi, Paul. How are you today?
Good. How you doing?
Good, thanks. I wanted to ask another question about the COVID-19 stuff. I guess I'm kind of curious from your perspective, what is the communication like with the other teams in the league, especially when it comes to your upcoming opponent? Obviously, Minnesota has had an uptick in their positive tests. They haven't said exactly how many, but I think PJ Fleck said after the game that it was close to whether they would not play. And considering you guys, back for the Nebraska game, you called it off before you necessarily had to. I guess I'm just kind of curious, what is the conversation like, or how closely are you guys able to monitor, what's going on in terms of how it might impact your next game?
Kind of from the way that, we had gone through it, I personally wasn't involved in any of the conversations. Coach Alvarez was with, Nebraska and Purdue and whatnot. And I think that, this summer was part of a lot of conference calls, and I think the communication amongst everyone's been good. But right now, I think that the bulk of it, and I can't speak for other schools, but for us, it's been, Coach Alvarez and our administration has been doing talking to anyone else outside, and then I've been talking with them.
Zach Hanley.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned the Axe, and I was just wondering what makes this week so special for the state, and do you talk to the young players who aren't from the state about what this week means to them, or do you let the older players kind of handle that?
You try to address it a number of different ways, and it's it's obviously a rivalry game that means a lot, and probably it means different to different people, and we've got players that didn't know anything about the rivalry or the Axe when they came here, and then having been a part of it, being around it, witnessing it, now they would speak differently about it. And so I think that's part of our job and get ready for this game, is that they understand the tradition of it. And that's, there's a reason, the Axes right now, the one we're playing for is the second one. The first one's in the College Football Hall of Fame. It's a meaningful rivalry game, and we want our players to understand that. And so, I'll talk about it. Coaches have talked about it. Players will talk about it. And yet you still comes down to then this year's team gets to play, Minnesota's team this year, and it comes down to a game. But we want them to feel a part of it and understand the tradition of it, certainly.
Back to Colton.
Jim DK was a guy that got a lot of, buzz about him going in camp. What are some of the things he's done now that he's gotten a few games under his belt that stuck out to you, or that's made him be an effective receiver for you?
Yeah, I've been impressed. Certainly he's talented and a good football player. We obviously thought that, but it's been fun to see how quickly he's been able to adjust. And I think one of the reasons he's been able to adjust is I think he's got a great focus and a great purpose. He's he approaches it in a way that he wants to be coached and wants to take those coaching points and learn from them. And I also think that he's got his demeanor and his kind of the poise that he plays with and the confidence that he plays with has allowed him to be in situations that it doesn't seem like are too big for him. So it's I think he's off to a good start, and obviously there's a ton of improvement for all of us, and Chim's certainly no different. But I think he's just he's a talented, competitive player that really wants to do all that he can to contribute for this team. He's absolutely fun to be around.
Back to Jeff.
Yeah, Paul, a quick follow-up on the PI calls against Northwestern. You said you want your guys to remain aggressive, but I'm just curious, do you think as a coach you have to remind them, look, you got some calls against you, but you can't back off from that aggressiveness? Because Minnesota likes to throw the ball up to some of their guys who can go up and get it.
Yeah, and they've got really good receivers and a good quarterback. And yeah, I think that, I know what Coach Leonard's teaching them, and we're going to teach to play within the rules. We've never not done that here, and want them to be confident in their technique and playing within the rules. And there'll be times when, something gets called and if you're playing within the rules, then you can't let that call get to you. And that's easier said than done. But, I think that we know we're going to be challenged this week. And our guys, I think they look forward to that. We got a competitive group as well. And so I think they got to go out and they got to trust what they've been doing and how to do it. And I feel good about the group going about it that way.
We'll wrap things up with one more from Colton.
Yeah, Paul, when you look at their defense, I think that group's probably been hit the most on their side with the COVID stuff. But just what have you seen from tape on them? Because it seems like maybe the stats don't look great, but they come up with some big plays.
They do. I mean, you look at them and it's a good defense and schematically what they're doing, it presents some challenges and I think they've got good talent across the board and I understand and you see like some of the stats and some things that happen in a game even, but it's I see a good defense. I see a defense that we've got to execute against. They're not going to give it to you, and we've been challenged by this group before and expect this year to be no different.